Good morning and welcome to Love Every Moment, coming to you today from Acadia National Park. Today's verse is 1 John 3:16. We know love by this, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. Wow, I love this one. It says, we know love by this. Now that word love, of course, is agape, which is God's love. And in fact, the King James Version includes the word God in there just to make it known. It's not in the original, but it sure is implied, because agape only comes from God. We humans cannot produce agape love out of our own efforts. The best we can do is something called phileo, but it falls way short of God's perfect love, which is agape. The good news is we can have agape if he's in our lives, and then that love comes out from him working through us. We know love by this. This is how we know we have that agape love. First of all, that we know that we're loved by him, that he laid down his life for us. Let's look at a famous verse about that one. It's John 10:15. Well, actually, let me back up to 14. I am the good shepherd, and I know my own, and my own know me, even as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. So, of course, this is going back to the way shepherds worked in Jesus' day. They would have an enclosure, a pen for the sheep that just had an opening, not necessarily a gate, just an opening that a sheep could get through. But also, if a sheep could get through it, so could a wolf. And so the shepherd would lay down and sleep right at that opening. So if a predator was going to come in, a wolf or whatever, they would have to go over the shepherd, and the shepherd, of course, would fight to the death if necessary to protect his sheep. One other small thing to consider is that also means the sheep would have to go over the shepherd to get out. And I'll bet he would also fight to keep them in. I believe that once you're in Jesus' fold, that you stay there. Okay, now, one other thing to think about is Jesus loved us enough to die for us when we hated him, when I was a wretched, miserable, selfish sinner. That's when he died for me. That is incredible. Now, you might say, well, he knew I was going to. No. He died when I was his enemy, when I didn't love him. That's when he died for me. And that shows a love that I know I don't have in my heart. Would I die for some guy that hated me? No, I sure couldn't. Not without God's help. That's for sure. Back to our main verse. We know that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. Now, let's look at another verse, and we'll kind of wrap this up here. John 15:13. Greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. And I'm going to go back to my main verse here. So, when we read this, we think of it only in the abstract. And we don't really get down to the brass tacks, the real practicalities of it, because generally I'll never need to lay down my life for my friends. It's something, again, I could only think about abstractly. So we have to really put it in practicality. It reminds me of a joke you've probably heard yourself, of a boyfriend writing a love letter to his girlfriend, and he says, I would cross the hottest desert for you and ford the widest river for you and climb the highest mountain for you, and I'll see you next Tuesday as long as it's not raining. So he didn't really mean that. He was just thinking abstractly. We have to show a love that's willing to sacrifice even our lives for our brethren, and it should show in our daily dealings with them. And just a hint of what's to come next week says that, if we have a bunch of goods that we're not willing to share, where's the love in that? So let's choose to love every moment, because then we're going to love every moment. I'm your average wretch, and I hope you have a great week.